Well, joining me now to deliberate more on this, I'm joined by Mr. Oriyomi Ogunwale, the team lead at EduPlanner. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, it's no news that Nigeria's education sector needs total rehabilitation. Now, so as a stakeholder in the sector, how best do you think the fund can be utilized?
Thank you for having me this evening. Um, this is a great opportunity for Nigeria in terms of the education spending. And one of those things that you expect with this outlay of funds to the federal government, and looking at what President Buhari has said, that they are going to increase education funding by 50% in the next 2 years. Um, I think I'm glad and I look forward to seeing a double digit allocation percentage to the education sector by the time the proposed budget for 2022 will be released. However, we look at the challenges that has buoyed the education sector, especially in the past 1 year, looking at the impact of COVID-19 on Nigeria education. You look at the government needing to invest more on digital infrastructures in order to improve access to education for children in rural communities. But one of those things that you look at, these things cannot be done haphazardly. We need to look at what is the plan, because if you are investing in the sector, there should be some outcomes that you're looking forward to, and we must be able to show results for these funds that is going to be invested in the education sector at this time. And one of those things that I would like to see is if the government can invest more in capital spending this time around in terms of capital projects like school renovation, school construction, instructional materials, computers, education materials also, to ensure that these children have a better learning environment that they can use. But going beyond that, you look at the security, school security that has brought the country in terms of kidnapping in schools these days, and what the government will do at this time with this outlay of funds. Also, is it going to invest in fencing? Is it going to What are they going to do this time around? Because this is a great opportunity, and one that we must use very well. Just like the Minister of State has stated, that this is the highest Nigeria has received in a very long time, and I believe that this is something that can be used effectively, especially when we look at what the president has said, that he's going to look into the education sector more. I look forward to the government addressing the basic issues at this time. This is not a time to look at recurrent spending, but more looking into capital spending more, and ensuring that, because when you look at education funding in Nigeria, you are seeing 80% going into recurrent expenditure and just 20% or even less than sometimes going into capital spending. So I would like if the government can at this time invest more in terms of capital project, and do more to address the challenges that face the education sector. And in this way, we can begin to look at better learning outcomes in Nigeria.
Now, it's interesting that you touched on security, which is, of course, one of the major challenges schools are facing right now. Now, as a stakeholder in the industry, or in the sector rather, what do you think the federal government can do in order to stop the constant reports of kidnappings in our schools?
Um, I think there has always been this safe school initiative by the federal government to actually address cases of kidnapping like this. And because when you look at these schools in the northern states, one of those things you discover is they are usually isolated in a very big expanse of land. And one of those things that I think it's more of a cultural problem. And I don't think most of the time it's going to be because of funding alone. I think it's going to be something that will be about communities, in terms of community support at this time, community intervention, to actually see how this can be addressed. But the cases of banditry at this time and schools being targeted can be addressed if the government can invest more in terms of digital infrastructure for security, and if there can be faster reporting of activities in schools and monitoring what is happening around the school environment, for example, I think is going to go a long way to address these issues and be able to stop banditry attacks in schools, for example.
Well, Mr. Ariyomi Ogunwale, team lead at EduPlanner, thanks so much for your contributions.